Child abuse. According to the National Center for Fatality Review and Prevention, more than 1,700 children in the U.S. die of child abuse and neglect each year. That number is way too high in my opinion. Every single day, 4 to 5 children die as a result of child abuse or neglect. This is a real issue in today's world. This is an issue that we can control. No one should ever have to feel the way that so many children have felt. When referring to child abuse, that doesn't just mean physical. Child abuse can mean physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, and neglect/abandonment. The first step to ending child abuse is to simply not do it, obviously. However, there are many evil people out there who won't stop, so we have to recognize and be mindful of the different kinds of abuse and those many signs of abuse and report it. No more pain. This world needs more love. Psychological or emotional abuse is one of the most common forms of child abuse. Although it doesn't receive the attention that physical and sexual abuse does, it's still very evident in our world today. ChildHelp.org did a study that showed that 80% of 21-year-olds who reported childhood abuse met the criteria for at least one psychological disorder. So clearly, the emotional abuse from one's childhood can stay and affect that person for the rest of their life. According to healthland.time.com, psychological abuse is the most difficult to treat because rather than treating the pain from a specific source, the pain is coming over a period of time or the period of a relationship. The emotional abuse can come from a number of different things. Name-calling, insults, making the child feel worthless, or simply ignoring the child, making them feel unnoticed or unwanted. Especially if all of these things and more are evident every day in a child's life, that creates one heavy heart. Even though some kids do eventually get out of the emotionally abusive environment, those memories and feelings will stay with them forever. Physical abuse and sexual abuse are also creating some very haunting memories for a child, or for anyone of any age, really. Physical abuse is defined as a caretaker inflicting injury on a child through assault, according to Roxanne Dryden-Edwards with MedicineNet.com. We've all seen the shows and heard the stories of young kids being physically or sexually abused, and it's heartbreaking. But what do we do about it? Probably not a whole lot. That's what needs to change. Sexual abuse is defined as exposing the child to inappropriate sexual content, behavior, or contact, also says MedicineNet.com. Sexual abuse is something we all know is around, but refuse to talk about because it's too inappropriate. No, what I think is too inappropriate is young children being sexually abused without having any kind of clue what's going on. That is messed up. Over 80% of children who die as a result of child abuse or neglect were 2 years old or younger. 2 years old. Can you imagine? There has got to be mental illness involved if someone was ever okay with killing a child like that. But what most people don't realize is that abuse in general often runs in the family. If a child's parent was once abused when he was younger, he is more likely to abuse his own children. Sad, isn't it? It's like a never-ending abuse chain. It just takes one to stop it all. There is no rule that says you have to raise or treat your kids just as you were raised or treated. Be the generation to break the chain. Oftentimes, the abuser threatens the child with consequences if anyone were to ever find out if they are being abused. In most cases, abuse within the family is often kept a secret from the world. That doesn't mean that we can't spot the signs of abuse in a child's life. A child who is being emotionally abused will have it written all over their face. Sadness, depression, even anger will preside over any other feelings they may have at this time. These kids also might be prone to acting out in hopes of getting attention, in hopes of getting the help they so desperately want. Children who suffer from abuse are often seen wearing extra clothing to cover up any bruises, scratches, cuts, or burns on their skin. Victims of both kinds of these abuse are prone to having anxiety, crying more, prefer to spend time alone, or often find activities to prevent them from going home to be with the abuser. Children who are victims of any type of abuse are also prone to having relationship troubles. As expected, children who have been abused are going to have difficulty trusting any other person in their life. Emotional abuse victims, like I stated earlier, are prone to being diagnosed with a psychological disorder. That's something that will affect your everyday life. Abuse victims will have to deal with forming new relationships, trusting new people. Being physically vulnerable with them will be a challenge with their future spouse. Abuse is not a once and done kind of thing. It's something that unfortunately sticks with you for the rest of your life. The results of abuse can be very extensive. Children have been known to have severe brain injuries from physical abuse, resulting in concussions, mental retardation, seizures, and even death, says MedicineNet.com. Studies show that those adults who were abused as children run a higher risk of unemployment, lower education and income levels, and lower assets. If you or someone you know is currently suffering from abuse, whether the aftermath of years ago or right now in the present, please talk to someone, get help. There is always ways to cope with abuse. There is ways to overcome the trauma. The first step is to talk to someone. No one on this earth can read minds. Communicating could save your life. Noticing the signs of a child who is being abused is key to stopping abuse altogether. These signs include the physical behaviors of kids, along with their internal feelings. Communication with kids is so important these days. You can't always tell when someone's heart is breaking. But talking to them, simply asking them how they're doing, could be the start to saving someone's life. As I said earlier, 4 to 5 kids die every single day as a result of child abuse or neglect. Let's be the generation that gets those numbers down to 0. Open your eyes, look for the signs, and report abuse. The world doesn't have to be as nasty as it is. This world needs love. We should bring love back into this world. We can bring love back into this world. Start ending child abuse today.